I'm not putting in on anything else. Rest of the year, don't plan on it.
Well, that'll be nice.
Unless it's client. I mean, we got clients that call us and need stuff, but I'm talking about chasing new opportunity.
Well, because the schedules are stupid, they're like wanting it right away. None of this.
A lot of them. I got 3 clients under consent administrative order from DEQ. Schedules are set. You don't vary that.
It's good and bad. It's hard to plan on that, though.
Yeah, like I said, we had one of our good engineers left and went to EMS.
Call the regular monthly meeting of the Maumelle Planning Commission to order. Mr. Nary, do you have any announcements?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Green had a little minor heart issue the last couple of days. He will not be with us, but he is out of the hospital and home resting comfortably. He's fine.
Good. That's good to hear.
I didn't know that, huh?
Okay, next item is we have the minutes of the May 25th meeting. You all have copies. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Make a motion we approve as submitted.
We have a motion and a second to approve as submitted. All those in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I have no public comment for non-agenda items. At this point, we'll open up the public hearing. We have no old business, Mr. Nary, new business.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I begin, I want to thank Commissioners Ramsey, Gershner, and Johnson for dropping by the office earlier in the week to all get briefings to come up to speed. The first 2 items, the applicant is the City of Maumelle. The first is an amendment to the Master Street Plan, one that you all have seen many times. Anytime that you have a new entry into Maumelle Boulevard, it is by ordinance an amendment to the Master Street Plan by placing a dot on the Master Street Plan itself. This particular point of entry is in relation to our Pine Forest Bypass project. I'm sure you all are familiar with. The mayor is representing the City of Maumelle, and I couldn't think of someone better to do that. You see where that's going to be. This is a due pass recommendation to the Maumelle City Council.
Mr. Mayor?
Evening, Mayor.
Evening. How are y'all? First, let me say something. Most of y'all are aware.
Name and address for the record.
Mike Watson, Mayor, 550 Edgewood Drive, Suite 590.
Thank you, sir.
No, I just want to make y'all aware. All of y'all probably knew Bill Lawson. I received word this afternoon that Mr. Lawson passed away this morning. So I just want to make y'all aware of that. Paul Elliott called me to let me know. So, but had some health issues. I think they put him in ICU and then just never recovered or something like that. So that's, I don't know any other details than that. So
Thank you.
just y'all that have been around for a while know who we're talking about, the former reporter for the Maumelle Monitor. Yes, sir. But for several years now, we've been trying to get a connection between Pine Forest Drive and Lake Point Drive so that people would not have to drive through Mr. Poole's parking lot to access the 2 roadways there. And so this year we were able to put it in the budget in order to put the road around. And at the same time, while we were doing that, we thought there's always a traffic jam at Pine Forest and Edgewood Drive where cars are trying to turn left to come out of there or turn right or turn in there. So we felt like if we could alleviate some of that by putting a entry only onto the southbound lane of Maumelle Boulevard, that would alleviate a lot of the traffic having to go back out on Edgewood and then turning right or turning left. And the problem is we don't let them turn left in the mornings, and some people still try to do it. We typically have a police officer down there helping direct traffic. And this may free up that officer if we were able to put this curb cut into the southbound lanes.
Any commissioners have questions of the mayor?
I got a question on the. You might check the radiuses and the widths. They look. It looks tight.
Okay, you're talking about the radius of the actual.
Yeah, the curb cut off of Pine Forest Drive. The 8-foot back of curb radiuses.
Okay.
One's 8, one's 10. The 8-foot looks tight.
Okay, I'll have them look at it. These have gone to the Highway Department for their review.
Okay.
We didn't get any comments back on the design part of it. They just said this has to go before the Maumelle Planning Commission before we can approve it. And they did ask our engineer where he got the acceleration lane and the taper, the distance of those, and he said he used ASTO standards on that. So that was the comments that I heard back from the highway department. But yeah, we could, if we need to make it 10 foot, we can do that, or even bigger. Yeah.
I'm just thinking the right turn onto that may be difficult. And then is there an issue with it being directly across from the exit?
Well,
With
that-
people wanting to shoot straight across and,
Well, that's where we wanted to put it, was directly across from there, so that they're actually going straight across and not, if you moved it, you'd have to move it at least 75 feet one direction or the other direction, because you can't have opposing roadways now. This is a driveway, but I still wouldn't want them to make a quick right and then a quick left on it.
just knowing how they stack up and
Yeah.
cars parked on the side of the road and not being able to see.
Well, they're not supposed to be parked on the side of the road during drop-off and pickup through there.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not supposed to be, but yeah, I understand. They stack,
Yeah.
but parked is a different issue, so.
I presume that we're talking now, or you're talking now about request number 2,
No,
No,
number 1,
just still number 1?
yes.
Okay, because you were getting into some of the design.
it's getting into the design features, but it's still, yeah, and I agree, the number one is just to, is a curb cut going to be allowed at this
Yeah,
location?
Yeah, and that was my point.
Yeah,
And then we've got number 2, which gets more into the design of the thing.
that's correct.
The motion should be made to the city council contingent upon the approval by the Arkansas Highway Department as well.
Yeah, I think that I voiced during our subcommittee meeting that I had problems with allowing curb cuts. I think because I'd come out of the doctor's office and I couldn't see what I was looking at because my eyes were dilated. I guess I didn't realize at the time that this was strictly an exit only onto the boulevard, not
Nor is it a variance request either, Mr. Chairman. This is an amendment to the master street plan.
I understand.
To actually redo this, you'd have to go back in and take this out and say, okay, curb cuts are allowed every 300 feet, 400 feet, similar to North Little Rock.
That's been my point going back in the past when we've given other variances to
This is not a variance.
so. Well,
It's a
but
much needed connection though.
but it is something that has to be done before you get to the variance.
That's
So,
correct.
you know, one or the other. But since this is to me, I'm looking at it more from a safety issue than anything else, and ability to move the traffic through that school area. So I think I've reconciled myself to this one. Any other questions of either staff or the mayor? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion for a due pass to city council pending any additional comments and AHTD comments.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, yes.
Yes.
Opposed, same sign. That motion passes. Okay, number 2, request for variance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This request for variance has been slightly changed after discussions with the mayor as well as the city attorney. Number 3 under this section, we will no longer consider. Staff had read that as distances between curb cuts and signalized intersections, when in effect, it's actually the distance between signalized intersection to intersection without the curb cut being an issue. You understand what I'm saying?
No.
It was first interpreted as the distance between a curb cut and a signalized intersection, let's say from this curb cut to Millwood and the Boulevard, had to be a minimum of 1/2 mile.
Okay.
From Odom, Bringler, and the Boulevard, it's not quite 1/2 mile. It's a little more than 1/2 mile to Millwood and the Boulevard. However, if you read this over and over very closely, it's not addressing the distance between a curb cut and a signalized intersection. What it addresses is the distance between signalized intersection to signalized intersection without the curb cut being an issue, not even playing into it. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
what is
therefore,
the
we will not be
request?
considering that. However, what we are going to consider is Section 54-108, which is always the second part of a curb cut request. In this case, anytime there's a curb cut, you are supposed to build the road coming off of it to a collector standard. In this case, the city is not. We're actually going to access Pine Forest Drive. Pine Forest is a local street on the master street plan, nor does it have the exact construction standards of a collector. However, during survey and research, the mayor found that Pine Forest does have a 60-foot right-of-way, the same that we would require of a collector. How it got there, I'm not quite sure. Pine Forest was actually constructed before Maumelle was a city, therefore it would have been in the unincorporated portion of Pulaski County. As the mayor said, it's quite possible that the county, who did not have a 60-foot right-of-way for a local street at that time, could have employed that right-of-way to accommodate Pine Forest, which sounds as good of an explanation that I know of. In any case, we'll have that. We're only about 700 feet from this curb cut to the next curb cut. You're supposed to have a quarter mile in between. And we're obviously not building a deceleration lane, and you see the mayor's explanation for that, and many of you have heard it from him personally. This stays with the commission, and staff is going to recommend for these variances.
Was there something other than what I got in my packet? I have no comments from the mayor.
In his letter.
He
My letter.
gave you an explanation on the introductory letter, Mr. Chairman.
The very last paragraph talks about entry only and that.
Yeah, okay. All right, now, the only question I would have on the acceleration lane, doesn't the ordinance call for 400 feet?
It does. And that's back to the conversation I was having earlier, was that the engineers designed it to AASHTO standards. And so, yeah, the actual rule is that the XL lane be built to 200, with a lane that's 235 feet long, and then the taper being 165. We're 40 foot short of that whole 400 feet, and I guess we're about 55 feet short of the full lane build out. If you go by the 235 minus 180, you'd come up with 55 feet. But the engineer said it's designed to AASHTO standards, and that's what the highway department just questioned, how they came up with those distances.
So that would be a variance that we're also including
Yes.
into this.
That's variance number 2B, I believe. Is that right? No. Yeah, 2B that you're looking at.
That's where I got a problem. I'm not looking at anything that says 2B.
Well, on your, and I pointed this out to Mr. Neri. If you look down on item 2, it says it says variance request regarding section 54-108, and it says access management 2. So you have to look at the code and read what number 2 is. And then you have to look at the code to read what 2A is. And then you have to look at the code and read what 2C is.
Yep.
So that's the variance requests that are being requested.
Well, it wasn't really clear in what I was seeing, but that's okay. But as long as, I mean, is it something that we need to address in our ordinance for future?
I'm not going to.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Well, I'm not going to say whether we do or we don't. And that's probably a longer discussion I need to have with the engineers. If this meets standard, then yes, we shouldn't be requiring other people to do something beyond AASHTO standards. Now, the difference may be the speed in this area. The speed limit in this area is 45 miles an hour.
Yeah.
The rest of the boulevard, it's 50 miles an hour, or south of there on the boulevard, it's 50 miles an hour. That may be the difference that is why it met it in this area, but it may not meet it somewhere else.
Okay, gotcha. Commissioners, any questions? Staff or the mayor? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve variance regarding section 54-108, 2, AC, and 3 for the city of...
No, not 3. Not 3. 3 is scratched.
Oh, that's right. Scratch 3.
You have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any further discussion on that motion? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Neri,
Item number 3 is a request for variance regarding section 14111. Specifically, it involves the charter school asking to erect a fence beyond a building line. And Mr. McGill is here to tell you why and all about it.
good evening, Mr. McGill. Name
Good
and
evening.
address for the record, please, sir.
Rob McGill, Executive Director, Academics Plus Charter School, 600 Edgewood Drive, Maumelle. There's three reasons to do this. First of all, we're trying, can you do this is what the fence would look like. It's the Montage Plus iron fence, 6 foot with a double rail on top, single rail on bottom. That's at a minimum. We are looking at pricing for actually pillars, the rock pillars. I don't know if we're going to be able to afford that yet, but that would be at a minimum. Possibly have rock pillars over 30 feet, I believe it is in the specs. So that's what we're looking at. Could you go, do you have the other slide, or is that, no? Okay, no other slide, not a problem. I think in your packet you have this, the red line is where we're looking, the front of the building, front of the high school is right here. You don't have that?
Should have. We don't.
Okay. I'll stand close. This is the the new elementary school, the one that's been there 6 years. And then this is the new high school here. This is Lake Point Place here. We already have approval to put a fence down to here. We're wanting to put a fence across the front between the school and Lake Point Place. There will be one crosswalk, and the crosswalk will be right here where you cross the path where you go into the library, into the city field there. And that's what I would like to have it for, because if students come out of this front building and there's no fence, then basically it's going to be hard to ramrod where they cross Lake Point Drive. And if we have the fence there, at least they have to go down to here, and there's a sidewalk down, and then they'll have to cross here. That's where we're going to ask them to cross. So that's first. And then in drop off and pickup, I mean, if parents know the door's right there, if they get to here, they're going to say, I'll just drop them off on the street and walk across. It's going to be enough problem, but when the kids have to walk an extra 50 feet, that helps us, okay? It's amazing what 10 or 15 feet does sometimes, but that helps on drop off and pickup. And then also, it completely defines our campus. So someone walking through the neighborhood, going from, say, the library or City Hall to the community center, they know that they're crossing into a place they shouldn't be because there's a fence there before they get actually onto the campus. That we won't have gates, but at the same time, it still defines the campus. So those are the reasons why we're wanting to do it.
Mr. Chairman, if you would allow me,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to read something from Fire Marshal John Payne in relation to this proposal. Jim, I have the following comments on adding a fence in front of the new Academics Plus High School. 1, an offset in the fence will need to be installed that allows street side access to the hydrant without opening a gate. In other words, the hydrant must be in front of the fence and have 4 feet of clearance from hydrant to fence at a minimum. Do you agree to that, Mr. McGill?
Yes.
Number 2, a 4-foot gate will need to be installed as this allows access to the hydrant from the school side. Do you agree to that, sir?
Yes.
Number 3, the gate will need to be locked. The gate key should be placed in the kitty key lock box on the front of the school at the administrative entrance. Do you agree to that, sir?
Yes.
Number 4, evacuation routes and rally points for the school will need to place children out of the travel routes of incoming fire apparatus. Note, the fence curtails travel during drop-off and pickup of children and therefore does the same during evacuation of the building. Do you agree to that, sir?
Yes.
If the school agrees to these points, I have no reason not to allow the fence. Central Arkansas Water may also need to be contacted before advancing this project forward. John Payne.
Has CAW been contacted?
I have not contacted them. I should have done that.
Is that for the easement for the water, or
I have no idea.
what would,
I have no idea.
Is the fire hydrant there now?
No, not yet.
It's not been put in place? And that may be what
Possibly.
they're talking about there, so, okay.
You're not, excuse me, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, I noticed trees were going in, I presume the
Well,
fence,
I'd
fence
say
is gonna go in front of the trees?
they'll be in front of the trees and before, and the sidewalk will be outside the fence.
Okay,
Yes.
that's looking nice.
The hydrant will have to be in the right of way. So your fence is not gonna be, your fence will be on your property.
That's right.
So the hydrant will be, so you just have to have a 4-foot offset, at least a minimum. And I couldn't tell, we weren't provided the drawing. Is the fence going on the property line?
It's going to be on, the property line.
Is it on the property line? Is this where it's
That's the
playing?
plan, yes.
Okay. Whether I couldn't, I mean, you got,
Yeah, you can't really tell about that.
yeah,
You should have actually had that in your packet.
that's
I take
okay. But it
responsibility.
is gonna be on the property line.
That's the plan, yes.
So the hydrant will need 4 foot, but it's more for your contractor. Would have to be at least a minimum of 4 foot, what Chief Payne is asking for.
Right, but if there's a,
And you have a sidewalk there too.
depending on the easement, we could be in front of it, and then if this is the hydrant, then we would come around it like that.
That's true.
You also have a letter of support from Jim Morley on this project request.
Any other questions?
This stays with the commission.
It's really looking nice, getting rid of all those old temporary buildings and.
Yep, we're
It's-
proud of it.
It is
We just hope we get into it.
change.
Teachers were in there the first, today was the first day they've been in there, so.
Some of us have been on this a long time, fighting the,
And we
Very
remember
beginning.
an azure and gold building, not blue and yellow. It's azure and
oh yeah,
gold.
it's come a long way.
I actually think it was Azure and Maize.
Oh, okay, maybe maize.
Ugly, how's that?
It wasn't blue and gold. I was corrected real quick with that.
If there are no other questions of staff or the applicant, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the request for variance on section 14-111 for sub-item D residential for academics charter school. Any pending other questions of commissioners' staff?
Subject to,
Subject to any other
DAW.
comments? Yeah, in the notes, I think he's got him on record with that, so we're covered there.
I'll second that.
got a second? Any further discussion? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McGill. Mary, number 4.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Items 4 and 5 are somewhat related. Item 4 is a request for a conditional use permit to locate a child daycare center in a PCD zoning district. Item 5 is a request for a conditional use permit to locate a church in a PCD zoning district, both at 501 Millwood Circle, across the street from Audubon Point in what we call Winters Plaza, the name of the subdivision when it was constructed. Ironically, this location that's proposed has been both a child daycare center, which was the original location of Little Scholars of Maumelle, and it has been only recently a church, Destiny of the Kingdom Ministries, who have since moved to Murphy Drive. In taking number 4 first, the applicant is Shantae Tyson. You may remember Ms. Tyson from 2009. Her name at that point was Shantae Edwards. She was granted a conditional use permit to locate a child daycare center in Riverstone Plaza at that time. The actual section of the lease space that she wants to locate in still has the fenced-in playground, still has the child's equipment for play from Little Scholars of Maumelle. And just to let you know, the next applicant, which is the Faith Church, and we'll get into that when the time comes, but you should know now, wants to locate in the same lease space. And I will let Ms. Tyson come to the podium first and explain. It would be something like her daycare center, 6 a.m. to 6:30. I think I'm correct on that. 6:30 to 6, Monday through Friday. The Faith Church would have a Bible study type service at 7, I believe, on Wednesdays, and then one church service on Sunday. So with that being said, Ms. Tyson's here to answer any of your questions.
If you would please state your name and address for the record.
Shantae Tyson, number 6 Emerald Drive, Maumelle.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioners, any questions of staff or applicant?
I have one for applicant. Childcare, it's regulated by Department of Health,
Department of Human Services.
Human Services.
Yes.
Okay, and then you have to get approval from them with your number of staff and the kids and the hours.
Yes, and they've come and they did a pre-licensing, and they gave me all that information.
One would presume, since there was a daycare there before, that probably
Right.
shouldn't be a problem, unless you're asking for more than what was allowed before.
No, sir, DHS does it based on the measurements of the building, so it'll be the same.
Any other questions?
This is a recommendation to the Maumelle City Council.
I'll make a recommendation, do pass to conditional use permit to locate a daycare in the PCD zoning district, subject to any staff comments, and receiving a full license from the Arkansas Department of Human Services.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item is the application by the Faith Church for a conditional use permit in this same lease space. The number of the congregation of this church, if I'm not mistaken, is 15. The pastor is Mr. Charles Helms, who is also an employee of Regions Bank here in Maumelle, who is in the audience this evening. And I'm sure Mr. Helms won't mind approaching the podium for any questions you may have. Staff will recommend for a do pass recommendation to the Maumelle City Council. And just a further note, of course, we put up public notice signs on the property. On each of these two items, I had not one telephone call. No public opinion.
Thank you, sir. If you would, for the record, state your name and address, please.
Yes, sir. My name is Charles Helms. My address is 8327 Count Massey Road, Maumelle.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Commissioners, any questions of the applicant and/or staff? Looks like you're going to get by easy.
Praise God.
Well, we've done this before with other facilities in the city, so.
Okay. Is that all? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Hearing no questions, I'd entertain a motion.
Move to approve, subject to, approve the request for a conditional use permit, issue due pass recommendation, subject to any staff and further commissioner comments.
Second. I have a motion, I do have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, same motion. The motion carries. Mr. Neri,
Ms. Tyson and Mr. Helms, I'd remind you that on Monday, August 7th at 6 p.m., the City Council will meet to consider your resolution for conditional use permit, so please plan to attend.
And it's 6 o'clock, not 6:30.
I said 6.
Oh, you did?
Okay.
Okay.
The last item on the agenda is request for variance regarding Section 70, 133B, easements and public rights-of-way. The applicant is actually Mr. Billy, and I'm going to try not to butcher your name, sir, Radenbeck?
Oh, I'm Tony Carter.
Oh,
Mr. Rodenbeck was my closing.
well, that's even worse than butchering his name. I forgot what he looked like, okay? Yeah, this is Mr. Tony Carden. However, let me give you a little background. In 1993, the then owner of the residence of 56 Masters Place came to Maumelle Permitting to get a pool permit, which they reissued. In those days, you didn't have to have a drawing to scale. You just kind of put something on paper and said, here's where it's going to be. Well, it wasn't to scale, and they reissued a permit. Years passed, and after a second survey, it was determined that that pool was 1 foot into an easement. The gentleman, Mr. Mr. Carden, closed on that July the 11th, I believe, and wanted to take care of that. And I don't blame him. If I were him, I'd do the same thing. Therefore, he's here tonight asking that this variance be granted. This stays with the council, with the commission, does not move on to the city council.
thank you, Mr. Neri. Is there any questions of staff by the commissioners? Any questions of the applicant?
I've got a question on what's the intent of that easement? Do we know?
It's utility.
Utility.
Are there any utilities in it that we know of?
I don't.
Okay.
Any drainage, maybe, yeah, I don't know.
My name is Tony Carden, and I'm at 56 Pastor's Place. I did have one call come out, and they located, or in the backyard, the only utilities located were cable, AT&T phone, and sewage. Those were marked, and they were all outside of the pool. In fact, except for the cable possibly running along the edge of the concrete, there are no utilities in that area.
Because what I was going to tell you, in case there was ever a problem, if anything happened, you know, and they had to come in and tear it out.
Which he was aware
Your
of at the
responsibility.
subcommittee meeting.
Yeah. And unfortunately, when contractors make these kind of errors, falls upon you. So it's a good thing that you've, you know, done what you can to get that all straightened out. So. Commissioners, any questions?
The intent on the variance request, although we approve the variance, it goes with the house. I believe it goes with property, is correct?
Correct.
And you explained to him that it doesn't in any mean provide you any other
Oh,
right.
He's very well aware.
Okay. I just want to reinforce that to you as well, too. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Hearing none, I entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the request for variance regarding Section 7133B for easements and public rights-of-ways pending any other staff or commission comments, Mr. Chair.
Second.
A motion is second. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor, yes?
Yes.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. All right, that completes the agenda item, so we'll close the public hearing portion and we'll move into the liaison reports. Does anybody know who had June 5th, 19th, July 3rd, and July 17th?
June 5th was me. Matters pertaining to Planning Commission was the second reading of Ordinance 935, which amended the use restrictions for I-1 zoning, and then a first reading of Ordinance 938, which would amend the zoning regulations to accommodate medical marijuana facilities.
Okay. Anybody remember who had June 19th?
No, but I attended.
Anything important happened?
Just some second readings.
Thank you.
On the medical marijuana. And second reading on the smoking ban on the walking paths.
July 3rd? Was that me?
That's my birthday. I was in Colorado.
Ah, I know that.
I attended that one too, but I slept in and don't have any notes.
I'll refer to the website.
Okay.
July 17th? No? Okay. All right, coming up for August, we need to get back on track. Commissioner Todd, you got the 7th.
Yes,
Commissioner
sir.
Johnson, you got the 21st.
I'm putting it in my calendar as we speak.
As we speak. I'm sure one of those days was probably mine. I just flat forgot it.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you all.
I already have it on there. I'm ahead of the game. Aren't y'all proud? Because I missed my last one. I felt bad. Hey, I'll be shocked.
Yeah, but
Paul?
you'll probably be calling and saying, hey, can somebody take it?